Hello, this is Malorian, and this will be a 2,500 point game of my Orcs against Empire. So this is the third game of my tournament I'm running today. In this one, it's all about your general getting poisoned, and now in this last game, this is basically it. This is his dying days. They're told, you're going to die any moment now. And so your general basically just wants to go out with a bang while handing over power to a successor. So the way you deploy here, and this is actually turned out to be on the same board I was on for my first game, you deploy within 30 inches of the bottom right corner. But before anything gets started, you pick a successor. A successor can be any other model in your army that's not a monster, and basically he gets a bunch of buffs. He'll have +2 leadership and weapon skill and attacks, and +1 attack and strength and all this stuff. And meanwhile, your actual general is going to be at -2 strength, -2 attacks, -2 wizard level and all that stuff. And starting on turn 3, you roll a dice. If it's 1 to 3, he dies. If it's a 4+, he gets to keep on living. And you keep on doing that every turn until either he dies or it's now, the game's over. If he does die, the successor is now your, effective general. So anyway, looking at this is the guy where I've played a couple of games against recently. We have kind of like a friendly rivalry going on because he likes competitive games, and I do my best to try and give it to him. And whereas in the last one, I think he definitely had an advantage in terrain. In this one, I definitely do. I got to pick sides, and I took this one. So, and for him, he has all of these haunted mansions around him, which are going to be eating away at him and all of his war machines. The disadvantage to my side is the river, but it's not so much of a disadvantage when you have river trolls. So it should be interesting. Anyway, the objectives you're trying to do in this one is, and also after you deploy, both your the unit that has your general in it has vanguard, and they can charge the first turn. Now, the objectives here are to destroy a unit in the first turn, destroy a unit in the second turn, destroy a unit in the third turn. You want your successor to at least destroy one model, and for him to also survive the game. So it's all about being really aggressive. I mean, you might as well be with your general because he's going to die anyway, and then afterwards getting something done with your successor there. So anyway, looking at my side, I got a giant. I got my 50 orcs, which already had semi-moved up with the general there. I got my mangler, my boar chariot, the other 50 with the BSB. Behind is the savages, the river trolls, the doom diver, the 2 chukkas. Up there, I got my wolf riders, which have already vanguarded up, the savage boar boys, and the wolf chariot. Meanwhile, for him, he has 50 halberdiers with 1 warrior priest, another 50 halberdiers with a second warrior priest, and that one is the successor. My successor is going to be the goblin war boss that's in there with the wolves. He has 3 cannons and 3 mortars sprinkled back there. He has his 6 pistoliers that moved up, a horde of great swords with a BSB, and I think another character in there too that moved up. An arch lector, which is his original general with the war altar that's back there. And then he also has, I think it's 10 or 12 knights there as well. I think it's, let's look at this, that's 12 knights. And I know he always gives them the flaming banner, which doesn't really matter much here. Now, looking at this, I'm feeling kind of okay about it. The big thing here is I think that I'll have a good chance to go after his knights, do a lot of damage, and then sneak past to his war machines. The real thing that's going to be a problem here is the fact that with his cannons, he can be starting to score destroying some units right away from turn 1, whereas I won't for a while. So I'll have to deal with that, but I'm hoping to catch back up later. So he gets turn 1, his pistoliers come up to kind of just bog me down. He has some stuff that moves up a tiny bit, not too much. At first things are looking pretty good. He has some scattered mortars. His cannon only does 2 wounds to my boar chariot, so I thought I was actually going to get away with him scoring a point here. But then he has a cannon that hits my wolf chariot, and boom, it's done. And I guess if nothing else, I'm lucky that I passed my leadership tests over there, but still, there's already a point for him. Alright, so my turn one, this is where I already realized that I made a real mistake, because what really happened here is that originally my general was supposed to be in the right unit and the BSB was going to be in my left unit. And what I wanted to happen is after I vanguarded up, the general was going to try and charge the building that's up front there that had his cannon in it. Well, unfortunately he got to do vanguard moves first, had moved up his pistoliers, and so I couldn't actually move up all that close because you have to be a foot away when you do your vanguard. So when I moved him over here to do that, all of a sudden I was out of range of my river trolls. So my river trolls failed their test, and now without them there to support, I don't really feel comfortable with all those great swords and his knights over there. So I'm having to play fairly defensive on the right, apart from my cav that's swinging around over there, and my giant is coming down on the bottom, but that's really going to be more stall tactics. Meanwhile, I charged his pistoliers, hit them with a doom diver to kill all but two, but I didn't destroy units, no point for me. So turn two for Empire, and I might as well say, like, all these little haunted mansions don't really end up doing very much. They do the odd wound here or there, but they never really have a solid effect. Anyway, his pistoliers keep on running. His knights have moved into the woods there. I guess so, to force me to have dangerous terrain tests when I charge in there. And then otherwise, with his shooting, he has a lot of scattering again, but he still does fairly well against the right unit there with my BSB. And then one of his cannons kills my other chariot to get his point. So still looking pretty good for him. And as far as magic goes, my only magic caster is at -2 wizard levels, so I'm basically playing 100 points to give my general stupidity, and he'll buff things up, but I just dispel them in my turn, and then really he's going for the burning gaze on his war altar, and then I just throw everything to try and stop it. So my turn two, this was really good. I didn't want to run in with all of my wolves because I'd just be giving him a bunch of free combat res. So what I do is I charge in there with just my war boss. I drink my potion, charge in, and with the extra attacks from being the successor, I have something like 8 strength 7 attacks, so I knew I'd crush him. Maybe I'd take away steadfast, but if nothing else, I'd really mess him up and maybe do something after. Plus, if he actually did take the flaming banner, this guy has a 2+ ward against flaming attacks, so things would be looking pretty awesome there. Surprisingly, though, he decided to flee, and even more surprisingly, he rolled like crap. He rolled almost nothing, and I caught him and destroyed him. So it's great for me. That means I get a point this turn, but wow, that was pretty good. My wolves go Congo line to try and sneak past the woods, but the real thing I'm worried about here is that now my successor is a shoo-in to be killed with a cannon. So the whole objective of keeping him alive will probably fail, but at least now he's killed something and I've killed something this turn. Otherwise, my giant, since he's gone just 5 wide down there, is up to go and pick a fight. And I think this was the turn that actually my general failed stupidity, and so didn't really move much at all. And here's just a little close-up of this model that I used to love him so much back in the days where he used to take the one-hit wonder, which was strength 10 for one turn, and he'd run out and destroy chariots whenever, back when a strength 7 or better would automatically destroy a chariot. But, this guy has been on the shelves for a long time, so it's great to see him come back and have such a huge effect as wiping out a squad of 12 knights all by himself. So turn 3 for Empire, and the big thing for this turn is really just bad luck for him and good luck for me. His halberdiers at the bottom reform to go into horde. His general dies right off the bat, so he's died of poison, and now that one warrior priest is now his general. With his war machines, he tried to do some damage, but he had a whole bunch of scatter, a whole bunch of bad bounces, and then he had killed some from, he had, bounced over my general, the war boss, the goblin war boss, and forced me to take a panic test on the wolf rider. So that's his leadership 6, passed it. Then he got off that burning gaze or whatever, and forced me to take another test, passed it. And it was just, Yeah, really, if I would have failed any one of those, they'd be automatically off the board, and then he'd get his point. But because that he didn't do that, now not only will I be able to charge his war machines with both those units now, both the Goblin War Boss and the Wolf Riders, but he did not get a point for this turn. My turn 3 goes pretty awesomely. I forgot to say last turn that the giant got hit by a cannon and only has 2 wounds left, so he's just kind of playing chicken now with those units and keeping them busy. My general with the wizard hat is already dead, so now the Goblin War Boss is the official general. I think this was the turn that I actually managed to pass my stupidity with my trolls, so they moved up, but still, things are so back down just because that took so long. And my savages, they failed their animosity and couldn't do anything. But anyway, yeah, I charged both war machines up there, destroyed both of them. Unfortunately, my war boss did not go far enough, so he could be countercharged by his war altar. And I think at this point, one of his other war machines had exploded too, because right now I know that the only war machines he has left is 2 mortars. So, can't remember if I destroyed some with my war machines or what, but at any rate, I get my point for this turn for destroying a unit on turn 3, and it's looking okay. So his turn 4, and this is where he definitely made a mistake, because he decided not to charge my Goblin War Boss, and then when he got his magic off, he did the Burning Gaze to the Wolf Rider, so killed him, he's dead. But I mean, if he would have charged me or cast that on my character, well, I don't know, if that counts as flaming, then I have a 2+ ward, but I think he definitely should have charged me. But at any rate, does more shooting at me with the mortars. They do minimal damage, and really it's just this whole game of chicken. And that's the problem that's happening right now, is that in the bottom he does not really want to come and fight me, because if I kill a successor, that's one of his points away. However, I know that if he does a wound to my orcs, that's going to be a point for him. So neither of us want to engage each other on the bottom. In the top, he doesn't want to fight my river trolls. I can't seem to get into him and line everything up for combo charges. So it's really just, except for what's happening in the backfield, it's just this whole stalemate. So my turn 4, my trolls managed to pass their stupidity, so they're just standing right there in front of his great swords. If he does manage to blow through them, I'm ready to go and counter. And otherwise, all that really happens this turn is that my Goblin War Boss destroys another mortar. And I've also lost a wound from one of the haunted mansions. So his turn 5, just more dancing over him, over here. He's now gone to ranks with his successor, so I don't know if he did that as a way of trying to sneak a little bit closer to me or what the idea was there, but really the only thing that really happens is that he tries to blast me with magic and I dispel it. So my turn 5, because he showed me the rear of his halberdiers, I decided to go for it. It's a complete flop, though, because he does nothing to me. I go grab one of his guys, and then he does a wound to me, and I hold, so that was pretty embarrassing. He actually reformed to face me. This is just a little bit early. My Mangler Squid just up there to really make sure that he doesn't try and charge me, and my War Boss moving over to charge the last mortar on turn 6. So turn 6 for him, he kills my giant. His great swords reformed to go to ranks for that. That really surprised me. And again, he just tries to blast me with magic, and it's a fail. And so finally, my turn 6, my trolls would have gone in to have one final fight, but of course I failed stupidity because it's leadership 4. And so it really just comes down to me trying to kill the mortar, but the ghost kills it first. So there you have it. So at the end of the game, it turned out to be a victory to me. He had destroyed a unit on turn 1 and 2, I did one on 2 and 3, and so it really just came down to the fact that both of our successors survived, and I just managed to kill a model with mine and he didn't. So really looking at it, he got fairly unlucky to not kill my goblins on turn 3. But, so, maybe it should have been a tie if this would have been down to victory points. Probably would have won to me. But the main thing is that it was a little bit of a boring game. Whereas I could have said my other 2 games of this tournament were good and fun and interesting. This one, we both kind of had to look at each other and go, well, we know we're supposed to say good game, but it really was pretty boring. I mean, like the first 3 turns had some interest there, where you're trying to make sure that you at least kill the unit. But then after that, we just did not want to engage in the bottom, did not want to engage in the top, or, I would have if I could have passed some stupidity tests and been in position, but unfortunately I deployed like an idiot. And yeah, so really it was just a whole bunch of nothing, with just a little bit of dancing in the very back, with me killing war machines that didn't really matter, because we're already past the turns where those were objectives. So really we could have just called the game off after turn 3. So a little bit disappointing, but at least it was, you know, it had its moments. So when it came down to adding up the points, both me and this player ended up having 10 total for the tournament. Actually, several people were tied for having 10 points, but the winners were my brother and another Skaven player that ended up with 12 points, and the fact that the other person had their army painted meant they were the winner. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Bye.